The night before my daughter's wedding, my phone rang. "Daddy," she said softly, "the best wedding gift you can give us is not showing up tomorrow." For a second, I honestly thought I had misheard her. My eyes drifted down to the manila folder sitting on my kitchen table. Inside was the deed to a 6-story office building on North High Street in downtown Columbus, appraised at $17 million. My attorney had already prepared every transfer document. All that was left was my signature after the ceremony. My daughter's married name was already typed neatly across the first page. Simone Brooks Ellis. I stared at those words while she waited for my answer. Then I quietly said, "Okay." She whispered, "Thank you, Daddy." The call ended. I never heard Cameron's voice. I did not have to. See, if you ever reach the age where silence hurts more than shouting, you will understand exactly how that kitchen felt. It was almost 9 o'clock on a warm Friday night in early June. My little ranch house in Dublin, Ohio, smelled faintly of coffee I had forgotten to finish. The dishwasher hummed in the background. The ceiling fan clicked every few seconds the way it had for the past 15 years, a sound I had always meant to fix but somehow found comforting. Everything looked exactly the same, only my life had changed. I stayed in my chair for what must have been 10 minutes, my hand still wrapped around the phone. Eventually, I set it down, not hard, carefully. Like if I moved too fast, something else might break. Across the room on the little shelf beside the window sat a framed picture I had looked at every single day since my wife passed away. Lorraine. She was smiling in that photograph, wearing the faded Howard University sweatshirt she refused to throw away even after the cuffs gave out. Her hair was pulled back, her eyes were bright, and she had that look she used to give me whenever I was taking life too seriously. I looked at her. "Well," I said quietly, "I didn't see that coming." No answer, of course. Just that same familiar smile. Funny how photographs never age. The people looking at them do. I rubbed both hands over my face and let out a long breath. You spend 31 years raising one child. You picture 1,000 hard conversations. You imagine boyfriends, grades, bills, heartbreak, illness, maybe even the day she has to decide what to do with your old things after you are gone. None of those imagined conversations sound like that. People usually assume that if a man owns a building worth $17 million, he must live behind gates with fountains out front and a garage full of cars he does not drive. Not me. I still drove a 12-year-old Ford F-150. The paint had faded on the hood. The driver's seat had a tear under a cheap fabric cover from AutoZone. My watch was an old Timex Lorraine bought me for our 25th anniversary. It still lost about 2 minutes every month. I never bothered replacing it. Neither did she. Lorraine used to laugh and say, "If we're late together, who exactly is going to complain?" That was my wife. She had a way of making ordinary things feel expensive. When she got sick, nothing felt expensive anymore. Not cars, not buildings, not money. Time became the only thing either of us wanted more of. We did not get it. Before she died, Lorraine made me promise something. Don't let money become Simone's measuring stick. I remember sitting beside her hospital bed at Riverside Methodist, holding her hand with both of mine because hers had gotten so thin I was afraid I might lose it in the blanket. Her voice was barely above a whisper. "Help her when she needs it." "I will. But don't raise her to expect it." "I won't." "And Vernon," she said, squeezing my hand with what little strength she had left, "if we're blessed enough to leave that girl anything someday, let kindness surprise her." I have carried those words for 15 years, long after the funeral, long after the hospital bills, long after Simone graduated college and became the kind of young woman Lorraine would have bragged about at church until everybody pretended they had somewhere else to be. Money should surprise people with kindness, not attract them with greed. That was why almost nobody knew what I actually owned. Certainly not Simone. She knew I had done well in commercial real estate and retired comfortably, which was true. She just did not know how comfortably. She knew I had a few properties tucked under LLCs, that I still got calls about leases, that I knew enough contractors to have favors in every corner of the city. She did not know about North High. Not really. The office building was not some lucky lottery ticket. It took me 38 years to build that life. I bought neglected properties when banks wanted nothing to do with men like me unless we brought twice the paperwork and half the attitude. I fixed roofs, negotiated leases, mopped empty offices myself when I could not afford a cleaning crew, and ate more gas station sandwiches than any doctor would approve. There were years Lorraine and I skipped vacations because every extra dollar went into another investment. She never complained. She believed in delayed gratification before it became something people turned into a caption online. The building on North High Street became my pride and joy. 6 stories, steady tenants, law firms, an accounting office, a dental practice, a small nonprofit that helped first-generation college students, which Lorraine would have loved. Nothing glamorous, just dependable people paying dependable rent. The kind of investment that lets an old man sleep through the night. When the appraisal came back earlier that spring, my attorney and I stared at the number for a while. 17 million. I laughed to myself. Lorraine would have rolled her eyes. Still just bricks and window, she would have said. She would have been right. To me, it was not about the money. It was about what the money represented. 40 years of ordinary Tuesdays. A week earlier, I had met my attorney, Patricia Monroe, in her office downtown. Patricia had been my lawyer for 20 years and my common sense department for almost as long. She was a sharp black woman with silver locks, reading glasses she wore low on her nose, and a way of asking one question that made a man hear every excuse he was about to make. She slid the transfer documents across the polished conference table. "You're sure you want to do this?" I smiled. "I've never been more sure. You understand that once it transfers, it belongs to her." "I know." Patricia adjusted her glasses. "You've worked your whole life for this building." "I didn't work for the building." I looked out the window toward the Columbus skyline. "I worked for my family." She nodded slowly. "I'll have everything ready. We'll finalize it Monday morning after the wedding." That had been the plan. Simple, quiet, no speeches, no dramatic presentation at the reception, no giant check or social media video with everybody clapping. Just breakfast Monday morning with Simone. I would hand her the folder. She would probably think it was insurance paperwork or something about estate planning. Then she would read the first page. I had imagined that moment more times than I care to admit. Now that folder sat unopened on my kitchen table. My phone buzzed again. A text from Simone. "Thank you for understanding, Daddy. This just makes things easier for everyone." Easier. I read that word 3 times. Easier for whom? Not for the father who had spent weeks imagining walking his only daughter down the aisle. Not for the man who still had the father-daughter dance song saved in his phone. Not for the old widower sitting alone in a quiet kitchen talking to a photograph. I did not answer. Instead, I reached across the table and opened the folder. There it was. Grantee, Simone Brooks Ellis. I stared at her name for a long time. Then I slowly pulled the first page from the stack. Tomorrow my daughter would marry the man she loved, and for the first time in 31 years, I found myself hoping she would never discover what I had almost placed in her hands. I did not sleep much that night. Around midnight, I gave up trying. The bedroom felt too quiet, the kind of quiet that gets louder the older you get. My knees complained when I sat up, and my lower back gave me that familiar pinch that comes from too many years crawling through half-renovated buildings and pretending a man can lift anything if he is stubborn enough. I stood in the dark for a second with one hand on the dresser, waiting for my body to agree with the rest of me. On top of the dresser was an old photo of Simone at 7 years old. Missing front tooth, pink softball helmet too big for her head, grin wide enough to break your heart. I picked it up and ran my thumb along the edge of the frame. "You used to run toward me," I whispered. That was the part I could not stop thinking about. Not the building, not the money, not even the wedding. Just that little girl running across a dusty softball field in Westerville, beads clicking at the ends of her braids, cleats kicking up dirt, yelling, "Daddy, did you see me hit it?" I always saw her, even when Lorraine was sick, even when work was falling apart. Even when I was so tired I had to sit in the truck for 5 minutes before walking into the house just to gather myself. I saw her. After Lorraine passed, seeing Simone became my job. Not watching her, not controlling her, seeing her. There is a difference. When Simone was 16, she got her first real heartbreak from a boy named Trevor, who worked at a pizza place near Sawmill Road. I found her sitting on the garage steps at 10 o'clock at night, crying into the sleeve of her hoodie. I did not ask a lot of questions. At that age, questions feel like police work. I just sat beside her. After a while, she said, "I feel stupid." I said, "That means you're human." She gave a wet little laugh. Then she leaned her head on my shoulder. "Don't ever get married again, Daddy." I looked down at her. "Why is that?" "Because I don't want to share you." I remember smiling. "Well, that's a selfish little contract." She sniffled. "You signing it?" "Yes, ma'am." For years, I thought we had kept that contract. Maybe that was my mistake. Children grow up. Parents sometimes do not notice until the door is already closing. Cameron Ellis came into our life 3 years before the wedding. The first time I met him was at a steakhouse downtown. Simone had insisted we go somewhere nice. That should have told me something right away. Simone and I used to be happy with burgers at Culver's or fried catfish from a place off Cleveland Avenue, where the owner still called me young man, even though I had not been young since the Clinton administration. Cameron stood when I approached the table. Good posture, polished shoes, navy blazer, smile so perfect it looked practiced in a mirror. "Mr. Brooks," he said, reaching out his hand, "I've heard a lot about you." His handshake was firm, a little too firm. Men like that think every handshake is a test. "Call me Vernon," I said. Simone looked proud, nervous too, but proud. Cameron worked as a corporate consultant. He talked easily about airports, client meetings, hotel points, private equity, and scaling operations, whatever that meant that week. He came from a respected black family on the East Side. His father had worked in banking, his mother sat on 2 nonprofit boards, and Cameron had learned early how to sound impressive in rooms where people were already waiting to be impressed. For the first 20 minutes, I thought maybe I was being unfair. Then he started asking questions. "So, Simone tells me you were in real estate." "Still am, in a quieter way." He smiled. "Commercial or residential?" "Mostly commercial." "That's where the real money is." I took a sip of iced tea and watched him over the rim of the glass. He did not ask what kind of work I liked. He did not ask what Simone was like as a child. He did not ask about Lorraine. He asked about holdings. "Did you sell most of it off when you retired?" "Some. And keep some. Enough to stay busy." He laughed like I had told a joke. Simone touched his arm. "Cam, don't interrogate him." "I'm not," he said. "I just admire smart investing." That was the first little pebble in my shoe. Small enough to ignore, sharp enough to remember. Over the next year, the pebbles added up. At Thanksgiving, Cameron walked through my house like he was appraising it for insurance. "Nice neighborhood," he said, looking around my living room. "You ever think of upgrading?" I was carving turkey at the counter. "Upgrading what?" "The house." Simone jumped in too quickly. "Daddy likes it here." Cameron smiled. "Of course. It's comfortable." Comfortable. The way he said it made my home sound like an old recliner nobody wanted to sit in anymore. I looked at the faded spot on the carpet where Lorraine's rocking chair used to be. "Comfortable's underrated," I said. Simone gave me a tight smile, like she wished I had said something smarter. That tight smile became familiar. It showed up when I wore my flannel jacket to brunch, when I drove my pickup to her apartment in German Village, when I mentioned clipping grocery coupons, mostly out of habit. One Sunday we were standing outside a restaurant after lunch when Simone looked at my truck and sighed. "Daddy, maybe park around the corner next time." I thought she was joking. She was not. "Why?" She lowered her voice. "Cameron's coworkers come here." I looked across the street at my old Ford. Sunlight hit the faded hood. A coffee cup sat in the console. There was a bag of mulch in the bed from Lowe's. "It's a truck, Simone." "I know, but it looks—" She stopped. That unfinished sentence did more damage than if she had finished it. "Looks what? Poor? Embarrassing? Like the man who raised you?" Cameron came out before she could answer. Sunglasses on, keys spinning around his finger. "All good?" he asked. Simone smiled too fast. "All good." But it was not. Not really. Wedding planning made it worse. At first, Simone wanted me involved. "Daddy, you'll walk me down the aisle, obviously." "Obviously," I said. Then came the adjustments. Daddy, about the father-daughter dance. Cameron thinks we should keep the reception moving. I was in my garage when she said it, phone tucked between my shoulder and ear while I tightened a bolt on the lawnmower. Keep it moving how? Maybe skip it. I sat back on my heels. The garage smelled like grass clippings and motor oil. Do you want to skip it? There was a pause. It's just one dance. That was not an answer. A week later, she called again. Daddy, don't take this wrong. That phrase never leads anywhere good. What is it? About the speech. I didn't know I was giving one. Well, normally, the father of the bride says something, but Cameron's dad is a really strong speaker, and the schedule is tight, so maybe we'll just let him handle the toast. I stared at the calendar on my refrigerator. There was a dentist appointment circled in blue and the wedding date circled in red. That's fine, I said. You're not upset? No. I lied. Parents lie all the time. Not big lies. Little ones that keep children from feeling guilty. The tuxedo conversation was the first time I heard Lorraine's voice in my head warning me. Simone came over one evening with a folder full of wedding printouts. She sat at my kitchen table scrolling on her phone while I made coffee. You need to rent a proper tux. I have my Navy suit. Daddy. That one word came loaded. What's wrong with the suit? It's old. It still fits. That's not the point. I set her mug down in front of her. She did not look up. Cameron's family is very put together. His dad's wearing a custom tux. Good for him. She finally looked at me. Can you please not make this difficult? The coffee maker clicked behind me. Outside, my neighbor's dog barked twice and stopped. I wanted to say, when did I become difficult? Instead, I said, sure, send me the place. Her face softened for half a second. Thank you. I almost told her then, about the building, about Monday, about what I had planned. Maybe if she knew, her tone would change, and that thought made my stomach turn. Because if love improves only after money enters the room, it is not love getting better. It is math. That night after Simone left, I carried my coffee into the living room and sat beside Lorraine's picture. She's under a lot of pressure, I told it. I used to feel foolish talking to photographs. After a while, loneliness cures you of that. She's not herself. The house settled around me. A pipe ticked in the wall. I leaned forward, elbows on my knees. I'm still going to do it. The words surprised me. I said them again, firmer. I'm still giving her the building. Because a father's love should not be a vending machine. You do not insert good behavior and receive inheritance. At least that is what I believed that night. I told myself Simone was overwhelmed. I told myself Cameron was polished, not predatory. I told myself weddings make people strange. Then the night before the ceremony, she called and asked me not to come. And as I sat there in my kitchen with her name printed on $17 million worth of paper, I realized something I had avoided for too long. My daughter had not forgotten who I was. She had decided who I was. And tomorrow, while she walked down that aisle without me, I was going to have to decide whether I believed her. The next morning, I woke up before my alarm, not because I was excited. Old men wake early when their minds will not let them rest. The house was gray and quiet. That soft kind of morning light came through the blinds, the kind Lorraine used to call wedding weather. Clear sky, gentle breeze, birds making noise like the world had no idea anything was wrong. I sat on the edge of my bed and let my feet find the slippers. For a minute, I just stayed there. My suit was hanging on the closet door. Navy blue, pressed, ready. Simone had called it old. Maybe it was. But Lorraine helped me pick it out for our 28th anniversary dinner, back when she still had enough strength to argue with the salesman about sleeve length. I stood, walked over, and touched the jacket. Then I took it off the hanger and put it back in the closet. No ceremony, no aisle, no father-daughter dance. A man can survive a lot at my age, but there are certain things you have to put away before they put you down. I made coffee, black, because the cream had gone sour sometime that week and I had not noticed. Then I toasted one piece of wheat bread and ate half of it standing over the sink. At 9:12, my phone buzzed. A text from Simone. Thank you again for understanding. We just want today to be calm. Calm. I stared at that word while the toast turned dry in my mouth. Then I set the phone face down. Calm it is, I said to the empty kitchen. By 10:30, I was in my truck heading downtown. Columbus looked bright that Saturday. Traffic moved easy on I-270, then got thicker as I came down toward the city. People were out for brunch, farmers markets, errands. A group of young folks crossed High Street laughing, all dressed like they had somewhere important to be. For a second, I wondered if any of them were going to Simone's wedding. Then I told myself to quit doing that. My building stood on North High Street, 6 stories of brick, glass, and stubborn old bones. It was not the tallest building downtown. It was not the prettiest either, but it was mine. I parked. You headed? Then she closed the file in front of her and said, "You want tea?" That nearly got me. Not because I wanted tea, because there are moments when a person who owes you nothing offers you more tenderness than your own blood. "I'm all right," I said. She stood anyway and came around the desk. "My father missed my wedding," she said quietly. "Different reason. He had a stroke 2 weeks before. I still looked for him when the music started." I looked down at the carpet. "Well," I said, "I hope Simone doesn't look too hard." Mrs. Patel put one hand on my forearm. "She will someday." I did not answer, because someday has a way of arriving too late. Around noon, I found myself in the empty 6th-floor suite. It had the best view. You could see pieces of downtown, the slow movement of traffic, rooftops, construction cranes, and a city going about its day like nobody's heart had cracked open. I had planned to bring Simone up there Monday after signing the papers. I imagined saying, "Look out there, baby. Part of this is yours now." I even pictured her laughing, maybe crying, maybe hugging me the way she used to. Instead, I stood alone by the window, with my hands in my pockets. My phone buzzed again. For a moment, I hoped it was Simone saying she had made a mistake. It was not. A social media notification, a tagged photo from one of Lorraine's old church friends. Simone stood in a white dress beneath an arch of pale flowers. Cameron stood beside her in a black tux, smiling like a man who had just closed a deal. The caption said, "Beautiful day for a beautiful couple." I zoomed in before I could stop myself. Simone looked lovely. Of course she did. She was my daughter. My throat tightened so hard I had to turn the phone off. I set it on the windowsill and pressed both hands against the glass. You got through layoffs, recessions, cancer, funerals, bank officers who called you by your first name like you worked for them, and 3 roof replacements, I told myself. You can get through a wedding. But those things had happened to me. This one had been chosen. There is a difference. At 2:17 p.m., my attorney called. Patricia Monroe never called on Saturdays unless something mattered. I answered on the second ring. "Vernon?" "Patricia, I'm sorry to bother you today. I just wanted to confirm Monday morning. 10 o'clock still works for the transfer signing?" I looked out at High Street. A delivery truck blocked traffic while a driver argued with a man in a suit. Life kept moving. "No," I said. There was a brief silence. "No, as in we need to reschedule?" "No, as in cancel it." Another pause. This one longer. "Vernon," she said carefully, "are you sure?" "I am." "You understand this is the transfer of the North High property?" "I understand. It's valued at $17 million. "I know what it's valued at." Her voice softened. "Did something happen?" I closed my eyes. I could still hear Simone. "The best wedding gift you can give us is not showing up." "Yes," I said. "Something happened." Patricia did not rush me. That is why I trusted her. Finally, she said, "Do you want me to hold the documents until you've had time to think?" I almost said yes. That would have been easier. Keep the door cracked. Pretend I was only hurt, not awake. But then I pictured Simone's text. "We just want today to be calm." Calm meant I stayed invisible. Calm meant I swallowed the insult so no one else felt uncomfortable. Calm meant I gave everything to people who were ashamed to have me in the room. "No," I said. "Cancel the..." Not because Simone suddenly grew curious about her father, and not because some dramatic secret got exposed in a courtroom or newspaper. No. He found out the way men like Cameron usually find things out, while trying to make money. It was a Tuesday morning around 10:30, and I was at home trying to fix the loose handle on my back storm door. My left knee was swollen from kneeling too long, and I had just dropped a tiny screw into the grass for the 3rd time when my phone buzzed on the porch rail. I wiped my hands on my jeans and checked the screen. It was Patricia. "Vernon," she said, "I think you should know something." That sentence has never brought good news in the history of mankind. I straightened slowly, one hand on the doorframe. "What happened?" "I got a call from a broker this morning, a man named Daniel Price. He said a corporate consulting firm is looking for downtown office space." "That happens." "Yes," she said, "but the person asking questions was Cameron Ellis." I did not say anything. A cardinal landed on the fence, bright red against the gray wood. It stayed there like it was waiting too. Patricia continued carefully. "He asked who owned the North High building." I looked down at the screwdriver in my hand. "Well," I said, "there it is." I didn't disclose anything private. Ownership is public record anyway. But Daniel mentioned Cameron sounded surprised. That almost made me laugh. Almost. Surprise is one word for it. "Do you want me to prepare for contact from Simone?" I looked across my yard. The grass needed cutting. The gutters needed cleaning. The same ordinary chores were sitting in front of me like life had not shifted under my feet. "No," I said. "Let them figure out what they need to figure out." Patricia was quiet. Then she said, "Are you all right?" That was the thing about getting older. People ask that question like they already know the answer. "I'm standing," I told her. Sometimes that is all a man can honestly say. Later, I learned how it happened. Cameron's firm had been looking to move from a bland office park near Polaris into something downtown. Better image, better clients, better photographs for the website. That was Cameron all over. Never build the substance first if you could rent the appearance. He was sitting in a glass conference room with two partners and a commercial broker named Daniel Price. Coffee cups on the table, floor plans spread out, a laptop connected to the wall screen. Daniel pulled up photos of my building. 6 stories, he said. Good visibility on North High. Solid tenant mix. Some vacancies opening on 3 and 5. Could be a nice fit. Cameron leaned forward. "What's the ownership structure?" Daniel glanced at his notes. "Privately held." "Local owner." Cameron tapped his pen. "Name?" "Vernon Brooks." That was all it took. According to someone who was there, and Columbus business circles are smaller than people think, Cameron's face changed before he could stop it. Not much, just enough. His fingers tightened around his coffee cup, and the plastic lid popped a little at the seam. One of the partners asked, "You know him?" Cameron cleared his throat. "My wife's father has that name." Daniel laughed lightly. "Well, unless there are 2 Vernon Brookses sitting on downtown commercial real estate, I'd say that's him." For the rest of the meeting, Cameron barely spoke. That must have been a first. By that afternoon, he had started digging. County property records, auditor's site, old LLC filings, appraisal references, tenant permits. The kind of boring paperwork nobody cares about until it has a dollar sign attached to it. And there I was. Not flashy, not hidden. Just sitting in public records like a fact waiting to embarrass him. Vernon Brooks, managing member. Brooks High Street Holdings, LLC. Building value estimated at $17 million. Debt released years earlier. Cameron printed everything. Of course he did. Men like him need paper when panic starts. Simone called me at 4:42 that afternoon. I was sitting at my kitchen table with a cup of lukewarm coffee and a bottle of arthritis pills beside the sugar jar. My hands had been stiff all day. Weather was changing. Her name lit up the screen. For 3 weeks after the wedding, she had sent exactly 2 texts. One said they made it safely to the resort in Cancun. The other said, "Hope you're doing okay." Not sorry, not I miss you. Not I wish you had been there. Just okay. Now she was calling. I let it ring. 5 times. Then it stopped. A minute later, a text came through. "Daddy, can you call me? It's important." I read it. Then I turned the phone over. The coffee had gone cold anyway. Cameron called next. That surprised me less. I watched his name flash across the screen. Simone must have made him add me as Vernon instead of Daddy because that was how it showed up. I let that ring too. Then came the voicemail. I did not listen right away. I took my time. I rinsed my mug, put it upside down in the dish rack, and wiped a crumb off the counter. It is strange what a person does when he is trying not to feel something. Finally, I pressed play. Vernon, hey, it's Cameron. Listen, I think there may have been a misunderstanding around the wedding. Simone and I would really like to sit down with you. We had no idea. I stopped it there. We had no idea. There it was, the whole apology packed into 4 words. Not we hurt you, not we were ashamed of you, not we should have wanted you there because you are her father. No, we had no idea, meaning they had no idea I was useful. I deleted it. Then I sat down harder than I meant to. My hip gave a sharp little warning, and for a moment I just leaned forward with both hands on my knees. The house was quiet again. Too quiet. That kind of quiet that makes a man hear his own breathing. I looked at Lorraine's picture on the wall. You were right, I said. My voice came out rough. God help me, you were right. That evening, Simone showed up. No warning, just headlights cutting across my living room wall at 7:15, then a car door closing in the driveway. I looked through the curtain and saw her standing beside Cameron's black BMW. She was wearing a cream sweater and jeans, hair pulled back, face pale. Cameron came around the car holding a folder. My folder, in a way, not the one from Patricia, but proof of me, proof that I had been worth knowing after all. The doorbell rang. I did not move right away. Simone rang again, then knocked. Daddy, she called through the door. Please. That word hit harder than I expected. Please. How many times had I heard that word from her as a child? Please, one more story. Please, 5 more minutes. Please, don't be mad. Now she was grown, standing on my porch because her husband had learned her quiet father owned something valuable. I opened the door. Simone's eyes were already wet. Hey, Daddy, she said. Cameron stepped forward. Vernon, we really need to talk. I looked at him. He had that consultant face on, concerned, polished, prepared. I hated how good he was at wearing whatever expression helped him most. Simone reached for me, then stopped when I did not open my arms. That hurt both of us. I could see it. Can we come in? She asked. I looked past them at the BMW sitting in my driveway, engine ticking as it cooled. Then I looked back at my daughter. No, I said. Her mouth parted slightly. Cameron frowned. Vernon, come on. This is family. That did make me laugh. One short breath through my nose. Funny, I said. I was family 3 weeks ago, too. Simone flinched. Cameron's jaw tightened. Daddy, I didn't know about the building. I know. She blinked. You do? Yes. I kept one hand on the edge of the door. That's the problem. She looked down. Cameron jumped in quickly. We made a mistake. The wedding was stressful. There were expectations and Simone was under pressure. I raised my hand, not angry, just enough. Cameron stopped. I looked at Simone. Did you miss me that day? Her eyes filled fast. Daddy, that's not an answer. She wiped under one eye with her sleeve. I thought it would be easier. There was that word again, easier. I nodded slowly. For you. She did not deny it. Maybe that was the first honest thing she had done in a while. Cameron opened the folder. Vernon, we just think there's been a lot of emotion on all sides. Maybe we should all sit down somewhere neutral and... Good idea, I said. He stopped, surprised. Simone looked up. I turned my eyes back to Cameron. But not tonight, and not just the 3 of us. His expression changed. What do you mean? I mean your parents should be there. Cameron's confidence slipped for half a second. Simone looked confused. Daddy, why would his parents... Because they were at the wedding, I said, and because they deserve to hear what really happened before anybody starts rewriting it. Cameron's lips pressed together. There it was, the first crack. I don't think that's necessary, he said. I do, Simone whispered. Daddy. I softened my voice, but not my words. You wanted me invisible at your wedding. I gave you that. Now I'm asking for one dinner where the truth gets to sit at the table. Nobody spoke. The porch light buzzed above us. A moth bumped against the glass shade again and again, too stubborn to understand it could not get through. Finally, Cameron shut the folder. When? Friday, I said. 6 o'clock. The Guild House, downtown. Simone stared at me like she did not recognize the man standing in front of her. Maybe she was finally seeing him. Cameron gave a tight nod. Fine. I looked at him for one extra second. No speeches prepared, I said. No spinning. Just truth. Then I turned to Simone. And bring your appetite. Her eyebrows pulled together. Why? I stepped back and put my hand on the door. Because regret is easier to swallow on a full stomach. Then I closed the door before either of them could answer. And for the first time since that phone call before the wedding, I understood something clearly. They had come to my house looking for the building. But Friday night, they were going to find the man they had thrown away. Friday evening, I got to the guild house 20 minutes early. That is something age does to you. You stop trusting traffic lights, knees, parking meters, and your own memory. So you leave early for everything. I parked 2 blocks away because the lot was full, then stood beside my truck for a minute, straightening my jacket. Not a tux, not new, just my navy suit. The old one, the one Simone thought would embarrass her. I looked at my reflection in the driver's side window. The man looking back had silver hair, tired eyes, brown skin lined by work and weather, and a face that had learned not to show every bruise. Stand up straight, I muttered. Then I walked inside. Patricia was already there, sitting at a round table near the back. She wore a dark blazer, reading glasses on a chain, and the calm expression of a woman who had spent 30 years watching families destroy themselves over money. Beside her chair was a leather document bag. She stood when she saw me. Vernon. Patricia, you still want to do this here? I looked around. Couples at small tables, low conversation, forks clicking against plates, a bartender laughing at something near the front, public enough to prevent shouting, private enough for shame to breathe. Yes, I said. I don't want a scene. I want witnesses. She nodded once. That's different. It better be. We sat. My hands looked older than usual on the white tablecloth, a scar across one knuckle from a roofing job in 1998, a swollen joint on my right thumb, a faint tremor I had started noticing when I held coffee too long. I folded them together so nobody else would notice. Patricia noticed anyway. Are you okay? I gave her a tired smile. People keep asking me that. Maybe answer one of them sometime. Before I could, Simone walked in. Cameron followed behind her, and behind him came his parents. His father, Harold Ellis, had the kind of face men get after 40 years in banking, smooth, stern, and used to being believed. His mother, Vanessa, was smaller, neatly dressed with a pearl necklace, a soft gray wrap, and eyes that moved quickly around the room. Simone saw me and stopped. For half a second, she looked like my little girl again. Then Cameron touched her lower back, guiding her forward, and the moment vanished. They reached the table. Daddy, Simone said. Simone. Cameron gave me his polished half smile. Vernon. I did not offer my hand. His smile faded. Harold looked between us. Well, he said, clearing his throat, I understand there has been some confusion. Patricia's eyebrow moved slightly, just 1 millimeter. I almost smiled. Sit down, I said. We'll clear it up. The server came by. Nobody wanted food. I ordered coffee. Patricia ordered tea. Vanessa ordered water, then changed it to white wine after looking at Cameron's face. That told me she already knew more than she wanted to. For a few minutes, menus sat open like shields. Finally, Harold closed his. Vernon, I'll be direct. Cameron says there was some misunderstanding surrounding the wedding. There was no misunderstanding. Cameron leaned forward. Look, emotions were high. Simone was overwhelmed. We were managing a lot of expectations. I looked at Simone. Is that what happened? She stared down at her lap. Cameron answered for her. Yes, that's what happened. I turned back to him. I didn't ask you. The table went still. Simone's fingers tightened around her napkin. She swallowed. I was overwhelmed. And her eyes lifted. And I made a terrible mistake. Cameron shifted in his chair. I nodded slowly. That's closer. Vanessa reached for her wine and missed the stem the first time. Harold frowned. May I ask what exactly was said? I looked at Simone. She looked away, so I said it for her. The night before the wedding, my daughter called me and said, the best wedding gift you can give us is not showing up. Vanessa's hand went to her mouth. Harold turned sharply toward Cameron. Cameron held up one hand. That is being taken out of context. Patricia opened her document bag. No, she said calmly. It really isn't. Everyone looked at her. She pulled out a folder and placed it on the table between the bread plates and water glasses. Not dramatically, carefully, like evidence. Cameron stared at it. Simone went pale before she even saw what was inside. Patricia looked at me. I nodded. She opened the folder. The first page faced Simone. Her name was printed in the middle. Simone Brooks Ellis. There are sounds you only hear in moments like that. The restaurant did not stop. People still laughed near the bar. A plate landed somewhere behind us. Ice shifted in a glass. But at our table, everything narrowed down to Simone's breathing. She reached for the page with 2 fingers. What is this? Patricia answered. Transfer documents for the North High Street office building, prepared before the wedding and scheduled for final signing the Monday after. Vanessa whispered, Oh my God. Cameron's eyes moved fast over the page. Too fast for grief. Fast like calculation. Harold noticed. That was the first satisfying thing that happened all night. He noticed his son reading the numbers before looking at his wife. Cameron, Harold said quietly, did you know about this? Cameron's mouth opened, closed. I found out later. That's not what I asked. Cameron's jaw tightened. No, I didn't know. Harold leaned back slowly, like something inside him had been confirmed and disappointed him at the same time. Simone looked at me. You were going to give this to me? Yes. Her voice broke. After the wedding? Monday morning. She covered her mouth. For a second, I saw the child with the pink softball helmet, the teenager crying on the garage steps, the daughter who used to save me the last brownie because she knew I liked the corner piece. Then I saw the woman who had asked me to disappear. Both were real. That was the part that hurt. Cameron recovered first. Of course he did. Vernon, I think we all need to take a breath here. Nobody is denying mistakes were made. Mistakes? Yes, mistakes. But surely we can work through this as a family. I looked at him. Family? He nodded, encouraged. Yes. I turned to Simone. If I had shown up at that wedding in my old suit, with my old truck parked out front, and no building behind my name, would I still be family? She started crying then, quietly at first, then harder. Daddy, please don't do this. I'm not doing anything to you. You're humiliating me. That landed strangely. I looked around the restaurant. Nobody was watching us. Not really. I lowered my voice. No, Simone. Humiliation is when your only child asks you not to stand beside her because you don't look valuable enough. Her face crumpled. Vanessa wiped her eyes with her napkin. Harold stared at the table like he wanted to disappear into the wood. Cameron's face hardened. There's no need to punish her forever. I almost laughed. There he was, the protector now. The husband defending the woman he had helped steer away from her father. I folded my hands again so they would not shake. I'm not punishing her forever. I'm refusing to reward what happened. Patricia quietly turned another page. It showed the building details, value, ownership, prepared transfer date, everything clean, everything real. Simone stared at the number. $17 million has a way of making silence heavier. Cameron stared too, but Simone looked ashamed. Cameron looked hungry. That difference mattered. Harold saw it too. He turned toward his son. What did you tell her? Cameron blinked. What? About her father before the wedding? What did you tell her? Cameron's face flushed. Dad, this is not... What did you tell her? Simone wiped her cheeks. He said people would ask questions. Harold looked at her. What questions? She could barely speak. About why my father looked like he didn't belong. Vanessa closed her eyes. Harold sat very still. Then he said, Cameron. Just his name. But it carried 40 years of disappointment. Cameron pushed back from the table slightly. I was trying to protect the image of the event. There it was. Finally. Not love. Image. I looked at Simone. She looked as if the word had slapped her. I slid the folder toward myself. These papers, I said, tapping them once, were a gift. No one moved. Respect was the condition nobody wrote down. Simone shook her head. Daddy, please. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I believe you're sorry. Her eyes searched mine. But I don't know yet what you're sorry for. That hurt her. I saw it, and I hated that part of me felt relief. Cameron leaned in again. So what do you want from us? I looked at him. Nothing. That confused him more than anger would have. I want nothing from you. Then I turned to Simone. And from you, I want time. She whispered, how much? I don't know. I closed the folder. Patricia placed one hand over it. Final, clean, no tearing, no shouting. Some men need fireworks to feel powerful. At 67, I had learned the sound of a closed folder could be louder. Harold stood first. He looked at me, then at Simone. I owe you an apology, Vernon. I raised a son who mistook appearance for character. Cameron snapped, Dad. Harold turned on him. Be quiet. That single sentence did more damage than anything I could have said. Vanessa touched Simone's shoulder as she passed, but Simone did not move. She just sat there staring at the folder as if it were a coffin for the future she had buried herself. I stood slowly. My knee popped loud enough that Patricia glanced at me. Old age keeps you humble, even in victory. Simone rose too. Daddy? I paused. I still love you, I said. Her face broke again. But love is not permission to keep hurting me. Then I picked up the folder. Cameron's eyes followed it all the way into Patricia's bag. And as I walked out of that restaurant into the warm Columbus night, I knew the building was safe. What I did not know yet was whether my daughter was. The divorce papers showed up before the apology did. Simone did not tell me at first. I found out from Harold. He called me one rainy Tuesday morning in October while I was standing in the aisle at Kroger, trying to remember whether I had come for eggs or blood pressure medicine. Vernon, he said, I thought you should know. Simone left him. I stood there between oatmeal and canned peaches holding an empty basket. Is she all right? There was a pause. As all right as a woman can be when she realizes she married a man who was shopping for a lifestyle. That sentence stayed with me. Shopping for a lifestyle. Turned out Cameron had not just been curious about my property. Simone found messages, old emails, searches, names of families in Columbus, Cincinnati, even Indianapolis. Women with inherited money, fathers with businesses. Widows with real estate. Social circles where success sat close enough to touch if a man smiled correctly. He had not been hunting for love. He had been hunting for an entrance. The worst part was that Simone discovered it in the most ordinary way possible. Not a big dramatic reveal, not a private investigator. Just his laptop open on their kitchen counter while he was in the shower. Later, when she told me, she said, I kept scrolling because I wanted one thing to prove I was wrong. She did not find it. She found herself on that list, next to my name, next to my address, next to a note Cameron had typed months before the wedding. Father appears modest. Verify assets before marriage. When she read that line out loud to me, her voice gave out halfway through. I did not say, I told you so. At my age, you learn there are some truths that do not need help hurting. For 3 months after that dinner at the Guild House, Simone and I barely spoke. She texted twice, not long messages. Just small ones. I'm sorry, Daddy. I know that isn't enough. Then 2 weeks later, I miss Mom today. That one I answered. Me too. That was all. People think forgiveness is a door you open because someone knocks. It is not. Sometimes it is more like repairing an old porch after a storm. You test one board at a time before trusting your weight to it. And I was tired. Not just emotionally, physically tired. The kind of tired that comes with age and grief, and too many nights waking up at 3 a.m. with your hip aching and your mind replaying conversations you wish had gone differently. Some mornings I would sit on the edge of my bed and tell myself, get up, Vernon. The world doesn't care if your heart hurts. Then my knee would pop like a firecracker and I would laugh despite myself. Old age is funny that way. It takes your pride in small payments. Simone finally came by the house in January. No Cameron, no folder, no makeup. Just a winter coat, red nose, and a paper bag from Buckeye Donuts. I watched her through the front window for a few seconds before opening the door. She looked smaller than she had in years. "Hi, Daddy." "Simone." She lifted the bag a little. "I brought apple fritters." "You hate apple fritters." "I know." A tiny smile tried to appear and failed. "They're your favorite." That almost got through. Almost. I stepped back. "Come in. It's freezing." She walked into the living room like she was not sure she still belonged there. Her eyes went to Lorraine's picture on the mantel, then to the couch, then to the kitchen table where months before the transfer folder had sat. "I don't want money," she said suddenly. I was halfway to the coffee maker. I turned. She swallowed hard. "I need you to know that before anything else. I don't want the building. I don't want a check. I don't want you to fix the divorce. I just—" Her chin trembled. "I want to be your daughter again if you'll let me earn that." The coffee maker clicked behind me. Outside, sleet tapped against the window. I looked at the woman standing in my kitchen and saw both versions of her again. The one who hurt me. The one who was hurting. I pulled down 2 mugs. "Coffee first," I said. She cried then. Not loud, just quietly with one hand over her mouth like she was embarrassed by the sound. I let her. Then I poured coffee, because sometimes that is all a father can do without lying about being healed. We did not fix things that day. That matters. Stories like this can make forgiveness look quick and clean, like one speech and one hug can undo a wound. It does not work that way. Our first breakfast was awkward. Bob Evans off Sawmill Road, 8:30 on a Saturday. She ordered pancakes and barely touched them. I ordered eggs over easy and forgot to salt them. We talked about weather, gas prices, her divorce attorney, anything except the wedding. When the check came, she reached for it. I said, "No." She looked scared. "I can pay." "I know you can. I'm your father. Let me buy breakfast." Her eyes filled again. I sighed. "Simone, if you cry every time I buy eggs, we're going to be banned from every restaurant in Dublin." That made her laugh. A real laugh. Small but real. That was the first board on the porch that held. By spring, she started coming over on Sundays. She helped me clean the gutters, though I would not let her climb the ladder. "You're worse than a foreman," she said, holding it steady. "I own buildings. Bossing people around is half the job." "You never bossed me around." I looked down at her from the second rung. "You wouldn't listen." She smiled. Then her face changed. I should have listened. I climbed down slowly, pretending my knee did not feel like someone had poured gravel into it. We both should have said more sooner. That was as close as I could get that day. She accepted it. Progress does not always look like an apology. Sometimes it looks like your daughter handing you a bottle of water without being asked. In May, we visited Lorraine's grave. The grass was freshly cut, and the cemetery smelled like rain and spring dirt. Simone brought white daisies, Lorraine's favorite. She knelt carefully and brushed clippings off the stone. "Mom would be so mad at me," she whispered. I stood beside her, hands in my jacket pockets. "Maybe." Simone looked up. "You think so?" "I think your mother had a way of being mad and loving you at the same time." Simone laughed through her tears. "That sounds like her." We stayed there a while. No big speeches, no heaven opening, just 2 people standing in front of the woman who had held us together longer than either of us realized. Before we left, Simone touched the top of the headstone. "I'm trying, Mom." I looked away. Some things are too private even for a father. That summer, Patricia finished the new trust. Not a gift thrown open like a door, a structure, protection. The North High building stayed under a trust with professional oversight. Simone would receive income gradually over many years if she kept her finances separate and never allowed a spouse to pressure her into selling or borrowing against it. Patricia explained everything in plain English while Simone sat beside me. "No one can force liquidation," Patricia said. "No future spouse controls distributions. The building remains protected." Simone looked at me. "You didn't have to include me at all." "No," I said, "I didn't." "Why did you?" I looked at my hands. Older now, more spots, more stiffness, still mine. "Because I'm not trying to erase you from my life. I'm trying to keep both of us from making the same mistake twice." She nodded, crying again, but softer this time. Not desperate, grateful. "There is a difference. I still drive the old Ford, still wear the Timex, still live in the same house with the ceiling fan that clicks every few seconds. Simone still comes for breakfast most Saturdays. Sometimes we talk easily, sometimes we do not, but she shows up, and showing up, I have learned, is where respect begins. The building was never the real gift. It was just bricks, windows, leases, and numbers on paper. The lesson cost more. Money can protect a future, but boundaries protect a soul. If this story touched something in you, share your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever had to choose respect over keeping the peace? Thank you for listening.